everyone, my name's Shan. This is a video on vestibular migraines or migrainus vertigo. I call them vertigo migraines because if people hear vestibular migraine, all they hear is migraine and they think automatically of a traditional migraine, which is mainly like pain and visual disturbances. That is not what vertigo migraines are. The primary symptom for vertigo migraines is vertigo, so that's why I call them that. It just helps other people to understand the symptoms that I'm experiencing, especially if I'm having them at that time without me having to go into too much detail, which can be really tiring. So when I have vertigo migraines, I feel really dizzy, I am really clumsy, it really affects my ability to walk depending on the severity. Sometimes I can't walk independently, other times I sort of drift from one side to the other, you know, I could look as though I'm walking like I'm drunk really. I can have light sensitivity and difficulty with my hearing, so I do lip read quite a lot, and this is something that even if I am not experiencing a vertigo migraine at the time, I still do have problems with my hearing, and I do still have problems with my speech and with like the cognition. So I have kind of had a few minor dizzy episodes in the past, but they weren't really anything to write home about. They sort of didn't last very long until January 2019, when I woke up one morning and just I was so dizzy and just so disorientated and really felt out of it. It was really worrying. I couldn't drive, I couldn't walk very well, so I did have to go to the doctor. I was driven there because obviously I couldn't drive, which does make it a lot worse, and that is something I know now, that if I'm having a vertigo migraine, or even if my tolerance for a vertigo migraine that day is quite low, being a passenger in the car can definitely bring on a migraine or make it worse. I've had attacks before when I've been in there and it's literally felt like I'm on a waltzer, like I'm just spinning, which is really disconcerting, to be honest. It's, you know, not very nice. So I woke up, I went to the doctor, and he diagnosed me with labyrinthitis, and he gave me some medication and signed me off work. I ended up being signed off work for a month because I really couldn't function. I spent 95% of that month in bed. It was not very nice at all. Anyway, so then 4 weeks basically in bed, and then for 2 weeks I started to get moments where it wasn't so bad, just like little breaks in the vertigo. And then after 2 weeks, the rest of the medication finished, and so did the vertigo attacks, or the labyrinthitis. And then that was it. It was fine. I didn't really experience anything else until the July of 2019, when just like before, everything seemed fine, and then I woke up and there it was. And it was just as intense as the first time. So I went back to the doctor, and my doctor had already questioned in his notes whether or not it had been vestibular migraines, migrainus vertigo. So he diagnosed me really quickly. Basically the second time I had a significant episode, which was the July, he said, look, this is what I think it is. We need to put you on a preventative medication. So that's what I did. I went on to Pyramate, and he gave me a rescue medication of Amitriptyline, or Migraine, it's also known as, in tablet form. And this did not help at all. The Pyramate made the symptoms a lot worse, a lot more intense. I couldn't walk unaided at all. If I was out, I'd have a stick and I'd be holding on to somebody. And yeah, if I tried to like go anywhere with my family, I'd have to hold them, and it was really tiring, really scary, and I was just so off balance, and so I really didn't go out very much. And that was me for 95% of the summer holidays of 2019. I spent most of it in bed, unfortunately. Yeah, a good sort of 6 to 8 weeks, which I've got children, so it was really distressing. So then sort of middle of September, the topiramate still was not helping. I'd tried anti-sickness medication as well to try and help with the side effects of the topiramate. Again, it just didn't help. So I went back to my doctor and he put me on Amitriptyline. I also have fibromyalgia, so this is kind of like a double whammy medication because it helps me sleep as well, which is fundamental to both fibro and the vertigo migraines. So he put me on Amitriptyline, and the rescue medication was not helping. So he gave me sumatriptan Immigram, a nasal spray. It comes in a box like this, and then this is what they look like. So you just push it up your nostril, it goes down, and they do work really quite effectively. So the Amitriptyline did start to help. I did start to have sort of breaks where it wasn't as bad. To be honest, compared to topiramate, it was a lifesaver, because on topiramate I just had no quality of life whatsoever. So I was still experiencing a significant amount of migraines. So I've got other food intolerances, so I decided to have a look at the food I was eating. So I had a look online and I found quite a comprehensive migraine diet. And what I liked about this one is it listed the chemicals in the foods that would be causing the trigger. So I'd already realised that spinach really was a bad trigger for me, which I was so disappointed about because I ate it every single day, probably like 3 times a day. So I cut that out of my diet, and then I realised that almonds, so I used to have almond milk, can't have that anymore. Tea and coffee, decaffeinated and caffeinated, both are migraine triggers. Soy sauce is a migraine trigger for me. Tomatoes, oh, I miss tomatoes. They bring on quite severe migraines that last, you know, are intense for a long time. And then a more recent one, actually only a couple of weeks ago, strawberries. They've brought on a very severe migraine. So I've cut all of those foods out of my diet, and I have about 1 day a week where I don't have a migraine, and the other days I do have a migraine, such as I have one now, but it's just sort of ticking along in the background, so I can actually function with it. But functioning through vertigo migraines is exhausting. It's really tiring mentally and physically, and the more you do it, the more tiring it is, the more run down you get, and the more severe the migraines get, because, you know, you're run down, you're stressed. Anyway, so there are a few things that I do that I notice have improved the migraines and keep them to a minimum. I have this book. If you have vestibular migraines, you need to get this book. It is really comprehensive. There's so much information in there, and so many different things that you can try that are medicinal and herbal. And also it gives you lots of language to help describe to medical professionals exactly what you're experiencing, because I found dizziness or spinning can be really subjective to the person's point of view of what that word means. So these I also use, Kool and Soothe. Now, when you put these on your head, so you put them on your forehead and they stay on for 8 hours, and let me tell you, they are so helpful. Especially I get a lot of tension here and it just lifts a lot of it off my eyes. But they do look like sanitary towels on your head. So where I work, everybody is used to seeing these on my head now, because they just mean that I can actually just stay there sometimes and try and just get through it and actually keep my job. I also take these, which is gingery. So ginger acts the same way as sumatriptan. Now, if I have, say, like a migraine like I've got today, which is just like a little one, it's just ticking along in the background, I would take a ginger. But if it comes on, and I do know the difference, if it's going to be a really big one, and I can't go to bed, because normally that's the best thing for me, just go to bed, lie down, close my eyes, shut the curtains, and sometimes it can go within an hour. Other times it really doesn't, and it's days. So for those times I do use the sumatriptan nasal spray. And also some other things that I find really helpful is vapour rub. I put this on my chest and it just helps, again, like lift some of the tension off. And if I don't have any of these, then I rub some of this forehead on there. And that's quite helpful, again, just to lift things off. I think that is everything I wanted to say about vestibular migraines today. If you do have any questions, please do comment. If you like this video and you want to know more, let me know. And I'll put some links in the description box for, I have a page on Facebook and Instagram and also on TikTok. It's called Waiting to Be a Swan, and I put loads of food on there because obviously we have to live within our migraine trigger restrictions, like the foods, and also some tips for the migraines and some other health conditions that I have. So yeah, take care everyone. I hope that you don't have a migraine today. Bye.